Time for a question from our second panelist, Janet Folger of President Faith to Action, and really the inspiration behind this evening's debate.
Thank you, Joe. As you will see by the ultrasound video on the screen, science confirms the undeniable unique human being or person in the womb. In Roe v. Wade, author Harry Blackman himself stated, "If this suggestion of personhood is established, the appellant's case, of course, collapses." By the author's own words, Roe v. Wade has collapsed. If elected, what will you do to make our laws consistent with our science and restore legal protection and full rights of personhood to every American waiting to be born?
We'll start from the right side this time. My right, Ambassador Alan Keyes.
I think the first and most important thing that we would do is champion an amendment to the United States Constitution that makes it crystal clear that the right to life of all human beings from conception to natural death must be respected. It's simple, it's clear, it must be done. We also need to reiterate the truth that in the preamble to our Constitution, it makes it clear that the ultimate aim of our government is to secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Posterity includes many we can't even imagine who have not yet been born. Surely it includes those who are sleeping in the womb. I would issue an executive order immediately granting the full protection of the presidency and every element of the executive branch to the life in the womb. And finally, I would make sure that no judges were appointed to the Supreme Court of the United States who did not strictly respect its mandate to secure the liberties of our posterity.
Representative Duncan Hunter.
Well, the first thing I do is pass the Hunter bill, which states that life does begin at conception. You know, the second thing is simply this, and I've said this in every speech that I've made in this run for the presidency. If a judicial candidate can look at a sonogram of an unborn child and not see a valuable human life, I will not appoint that judicial candidate to the federal bench. It's as simple as that.
Dr. Ron Paul.
As an OB doctor of 30 years and having delivered 4,000 babies, I can assure you that life begins at conception. I am legally responsible for the unborn no matter what I do. So there's a legal life there. The unborn has inheritance rights, and if there's an injury or a killing, there is legal entity. There's no doubt about it. I am surprised that I don't have more co-sponsor for the Sanctity of Life Act that I have, which would solve all this problem and would have eliminated a lot of abortions by now if we'd have passed it, and we wouldn't need any amendment. It removes the jurisdiction from the federal courts. If the states were allowed to pass this, immediately it would go into effect. Instead of waiting years and years and years for an amendment, this would happen immediately by a majority vote in the Congress and a president's signature. There's much easier ways to accomplish this by following what our Constitution directs us to do instead of looking for massive new laws. Let's just use what we have and pass this type of legislation.
Senator Sam Brownback.
Janet, thanks for the forum and thanks for the question. I want to be the president to appoint the justice that is the final vote that we need to overturn Roe versus Wade and end this night of wrong. I have fought for this in the Judiciary Committee. I fought for Samuel Alito. I fought for Justice Roberts, and I think these are two new oaks that we've planted, and we need one more vote to overturn Roe. Roe is not in the Constitution. There is not in the Constitution a fundamental right to an abortion. And Roe and Doe, Roe v. Wade and Doe v. Bolton, are built on factual lies. I have had both of these women in to testify in front of my committee. Norma McCorvey, Sandra Aquino. I have had them in to testify, and they both stated in their affidavits that there are lies. And on these lies, 40 million have died. On a bunch of lies. It's time to end this night of wrong, and I'll fight for it as I have in the Senate.
John Cox.
This issue tears this country apart, and it shouldn't.
I'm a Christian. Most of you, or not all of you, are Christians or Jews. We believe in the right to life. But we need to talk to the American people about responsibility. You know, in 1955, my mother already had a child, and she conceived me. And my real father walked out. If abortion had been legal in 1955, I wouldn't be standing here before you today. This is personal to me, but it's about responsibility. My mother took responsibility for me, and she's glad she did, and I'm glad she did, and my children are glad she did, and that's what we need to talk about on this issue with the American people. I, too, will make sure that I appoint judges who don't make the law, but will interpret it only. We fought a revolution 230 years ago against a dictator, a king who tried to dictate to us what we were going to believe. We need to end the reign of the activist judges and restore some sanity to the right to life.
Representative Tom Tancredo.
Well, of course, I believe all of us would appoint judges who would do exactly what we said here and overturn Roe versus Wade. At least I guarantee you I would do that. That would be a litmus test. I know every time you hear the debates over the judges when they're up in front of the Senate and everybody says, you know what, now there's no litmus test here, there's no litmus test. Well, I guarantee you there would be a litmus test for me, and that is, will you overturn Roe versus Wade? That's got to be there. Number two, it's the way you talk about the unborn. I tell you, as president, and everybody in my cabinet is going to talk about them as people, as individuals, because that's exactly what they are, because God said to Jeremiah, I knew you before you were in the womb. He wasn't talking about a mass of cells. He was talking about a person, a human being. That's exactly the way we have to look at it. We have to understand in this nation that regardless of your political persuasion, all the political talk that goes around it, it goes back to this. God said, I knew you before you were in the womb.
Governor Mike Huckabee.
Well, it's obvious that all of us on this stage are pro-life. I think there's also a reason there are 4 empty podiums here tonight. There are some folks who wouldn't be real comfortable with that question. But the reason that I'm comfortable with it is because I'm not a person who became pro-life because I got into politics. I'm like a lot of you. I got into politics because I'm pro-life. And I believe that on this issue, our culture rises or falls, because it really says everything that we are as a civilization as to whether or not we value the intrinsic worth and value of every single individual human being. That's why we're looking for 6 coal miners in the womb of a coal mine in Huntington, Utah. And that's the same reason that we have a responsibility to protect the lives in the womb of the mother, or the lives of those outside that womb, from conception until natural conclusion of human life.
And before introducing Rabbi Spiro, I just want to commend everyone for